Welcome to the Senior Techie Podcast. Um, so I want you to imagine a 5-year-old who, you know, they can't even tie their own shoes yet, but they are currently negotiating bedtime with a highly advanced artificial intelligence.
Right, which just sounds completely like science fiction.
It really does. But for the demographic we are exploring, I mean, it is just a normal Tuesday.
Oh, absolutely.
Because keeping up with technology, it often feels like trying to catch a moving train, right?
Yeah.
You figure out how to confidently navigate one app, and suddenly, the station changes, the tracks move, and a whole new system just takes over.
Yeah, you barely get your footing and it's gone.
Exactly. And nowhere is that sensation more apparent than when we look at the absolute youngest members of our families. So our mission for this conversation is to explore this really fascinating demographic, which is known as Gen Alpha.
It's just such an incredibly unique group to examine because, we are looking at a cohort that is fundamentally reshaping our baseline understanding of how humans and computers interact.
Right. And just to put some parameters around who we're actually talking about, Gen Alpha includes anyone born from 2013 onward. So for the grandparents or the great-grandparents who are tuning in, these children might actually be your great-grandkids.
Right, with the oldest ones just hitting their early teens now.
Yeah, and the youngest ones are literally still in diapers.
Which means, we are analyzing a population that has literally never known a world without a touchscreen in the house.
It's wild to think about.
It is, but I do want to set a very clear, reassuring tone for you, our listener, before we go any further, because this conversation is not, it's not a homework assignment.
Oh, definitely not.
Right. We are not going to sit here and list a dozen new gadgets or social media trends that you need to memorize to avoid feeling left behind.
Because that would be exhausting
Okay.
and, frankly, completely counterproductive.
It really would be. The goal here is empowerment. We want to take a clear-eyed look at the world these kids are growing up in. Because understanding those invisible forces, it's just the most effective way to understand them as individuals. You really do not need a degree in computer science to be a wonderful, engaged presence in their lives.
I really appreciate that framing because, when we look at previous generations like millennials or Gen Z, we have established track records, right?
We have the hard data.
Exactly. We know their career preferences, their spending habits, how they vote. We have a fairly complete picture.
Right.
But with Gen Alpha, we lack that hard data because, well, a good portion of them are currently learning how to finger paint.
Right. They're a little busy for sociological surveys.
Yeah. So trying to analyze them right now, it's kind of like trying to write a definitive review of a movie when you've only seen the opening credits.
I love that analogy. We are definitely just watching the opening credits. It's a preview, not a full portrait. But, even in a preview, the major themes and the underlying tone are visible if you know where to look.
Right. And to understand those themes, we really have to understand the tools. We can't talk about how this generation behaves without, translating the vocabulary that defines their daily lives.
We definitely need to define some of this jargon.
Yeah, we have a few specific terms from the research that might feel a bit abstract, so we need to ground them in reality for you.
Okay, so the most crucial term dominating all the research right now is conversational AI, which you might also hear called AI chat or chatbots.
Right.
The core concept is basically a digital entity that can write, draw, and actively talk back to a user in a way that mimics human reasoning.
Okay, let's avoid the abstract definitions, though. Let's build a typical analogy. So I want you, the listener, to picture that traditional set of encyclopedias that probably sat on your bookshelf.
Oh yeah, the heavy ones.
Yes. If you had a question, you pulled one out, you looked it up, and the book gave you a static answer. It was a totally one-way street.
Reliable, but, entirely inflexible.
Right. And then search engines came along, and that was like walking into a massive infinite library where a librarian just hands you a map and says, go find it yourself.
Good luck. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But conversational AI or a chatbot, that is like having a brilliantly educated, endlessly patient tutor sitting right there at your kitchen table.
I think that's the perfect way to picture it.
Because, you ask a question and it talks back, it actively adjusts its explanation to fit exactly how you personally learn best.
Yeah, it doesn't just hand you a pre-written article.
Yeah.
It generates the response tailored to your exact context.
Right, which completely changes the dynamic. Now, the second piece of jargon we need to translate is short-form video content, which, is the media formatting that's really affecting their attention spans.
Yeah, it's very easy to dismiss things like TikTok or YouTube Shorts as just silly little videos, but that misses the whole mechanism.
So let's visualize this one too. Imagine instead of sitting down in a theater to watch a full-length movie, You are handed this magical magazine, and on every single page, there is a tiny, moving window showing a complete, engaging story that lasts only 15 seconds.
Wow.
And you just keep flipping the pages over and over.
And the sheer speed of that consumption is just staggering.
So now that we understand what conversational AI and short-form video actually look like, we can see how the presence of these tools, along with some major global events, makes Gen Alpha's upbringing entirely unique.
Right. It shifts their baseline expectations completely.
How so?
Well, millennials and Gen Z, they grew up with search engines, so they had to adapt to that. But for Gen Alpha, conversational AI is just a baseline expectation. It's not a novelty to them.
Right, it's just how the world works.
Exactly. I mean, they are interacting with AI that talks back to them before they've even learned cursive.
That is just wild to think about. But it's not just the tech, is it?
No, not at all. Their world includes a pandemic that hit right during their most formative developmental years.
Right, the isolation, the masks, the digital classrooms.
Yeah, and on top of that, climate change isn't some distant, abstract threat for them. It is treated as a daily headline. It's just their everyday reality.
Okay, I have a question about this, though. A bit of pushback.
Sure, go for it.
If they are growing up with AI tools that, instantly adjust to them personally, is there a risk they won't learn how to adapt to the real inflexible world? I mean, life doesn't always tailor itself to your learning style.
Oh, that is a huge anxiety among developmental psychologists right now. It's a very valid point.
Because, an eventual boss isn't going to rewrite an email just because you didn't quite get the tone, right?
Right, exactly. But relying on our source material here, researchers say this isn't necessarily a story of doom or triumph. It simply means the furniture of their childhood looks completely different from your childhood or even your grandkids' childhood.
The furniture of their childhood, I like that.
Yeah, they are just developing entirely different coping mechanisms because their environment is furnished differently.
Okay, so building on that idea of this new furniture, what specific behaviors are researchers already seeing in these early years?
Well, the most glaring pattern is that their comfort with voice assistants and AI chat is totally instinctive. It is not learned.
Meaning they don't have to be taught how to use it.
Right. Unlike seniors or, older generations who had to purposefully sit down and learn how to type or navigate a computer directory, these kids just know it.
It really reminds me of learning a language.
Oh, how so?
Well, we are trying to speak technology as a second language, right? We might speak it well, but we speak it with an accent.
Ah, I see.
But for Gen Alpha, they are native speakers.
Yeah.
They've literally never known a world without an iPad in the house.
Yes, exactly. And because of that native fluency, screen exposure starts earlier than ever, often on highly personalized tablets designed specifically for toddlers.
Which brings us back to that short-form video content we talked about.
All right, and educators are currently scrambling, trying to figure out how their attention spans are adapting to that 15-second magical magazine format.
It has to be incredibly tough on teachers.
It is. But it goes beyond just screens and attention spans. The social and global awareness is fascinating.
Yeah, I was reading that kids as young as 6 or 7 are already talking about recycling and climate change with, genuine, real concern.
Yes, the macro problems feel very micro and personal to them. Furthermore, concepts like diversity and inclusion aren't topics they had to sit down and be taught. It's not disruptive to them.
Right, it's just the water they swim in.
Exactly.
This is something we hear from listeners of the Senior Techie all the time. Just that feeling of awe and maybe a little intimidation watching a toddler navigate a touchscreen better than we navigate a TV remote.
Which is a perfect segue, because we need to talk about what this means for the listener.
Right. So what does this all mean for you, the grandparent or great-grandparent tuning in? How do you bridge this gap?
Well, we have to acknowledge a pretty tough truth from the sources first. Because of AI, the tech gap between generations might actually widen faster now than it did with millennials or Gen Z.
Wow, really?
Yeah. Gen Alpha won't remember a before AI world, just like you remember a before the internet world.
Okay, so that sounds a bit daunting. What is the actionable advice here? Because my instinct would be to try and learn every single app they use.
And that is exactly what you should not do. Your job is not to exhaust yourself trying to keep up with every platform. Gen Alpha has enough digital noise.
So what is our role then?
Your role is to be a stable, curious presence while their world moves at light speed.
Okay, but how do I practically implement that curiosity? Like if my great-grandchild is just glued to a screen, how do I enter their world without sounding like a nagging authority figure?
Right. The moment you criticize, they shut down.
It's like being invited into their bedroom,
Yeah.
right? You shouldn't immediately start judging their posters or rearranging their furniture. You just ask them what they like about it.
That is a phenomenal analogy, and it perfectly aligns with the expert solution from the text.
Which is,
Ask the child to show you their favorite app or game, and just watch them without judging. Let them be the tour guide. Oh, I love that.
yeah, you will learn more in 10 minutes of genuine curiosity than in an hour of complaining about kids these days.
And it takes the pressure off you to be the expert.
Exactly. And, furthermore, if you can get comfortable with even just basic AI tools now, it gives you a genuinely relevant touch point to talk about with these kids as they grow.
Just a shared vocabulary. That makes so much sense. So, looking ahead, the clock never stops. Researchers are already talking about Gen Beta,
Oh, yes, they are.
which will include kids born starting around 2025. And while we don't know much beyond the label yet, the pattern will hold, right? Whatever tech and crises define their childhood will shape them.
Absolutely. And the empowering takeaway for you, our listener, is to just stay flexible and stay curious. I mean, every generation before this one seemed totally strange to the generation before it, too.
That is very true. But I do want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. Something a bit provocative.
Oh, I'm intrigued. So we've talked about how these kids use conversational AI as a baseline, right? Asking chatbots their homework questions. But think about this. If a chatbot is constantly talking back and dynamically adjusting his personality to fit the child, how will that child's expectations of human relationships change?
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, when your first tutor and playmate is an endlessly patient algorithm tailored just for you, what happens when you have to collaborate with a real, flawed, unpredictable human being?
That is a huge question.
It really is. Something to think about. This podcast was brought to you by The Senior Techie. It's available on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and Spotify. If you'd like to receive their free newsletters, you can subscribe at subscribe.theseniortechie.com.